Hey Victor, how are you?
Hey, good
We're
morning. Good.
we're finally doing this after chatting. When were we starting to text each other?
I don't know, a couple of months ago.
Oh no, it was
Uh,
more than that. It could have been like November, I reckon, wasn't it?
yeah,
Like,
probably. Uh,
wow,
half a year.
half a year maybe. Yeah, phenomenal. It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Morning, Belinda.
Hey,
Hey, oh, evening for you, maybe.
yeah, how are you, Victor? Oh, hang on, I'm going
Good,
to turn
thank you.
the lights on.
Morning.
Hey, Guillem.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you here.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I thought Belinda was going to the whiteboard. So, Victor, welcome. You've been chatting to Guillem. Guillem, do you guys want to do the introduction? I'm so excited.
Sure, like I can maybe say, so with Victor, we've known each other for quite a while, actually. So I don't know, maybe little more than 2 years, maybe even. I don't know. Like we've been around the Holochain community, developing and so on. Victor has always been more on the architecture, design, trying to engage people and hold space for learning, trying to figure out what are the right patterns to apply Holochain to the context he's in. So I remember one of the first things that Victor proposed was a distributed library sort of thing. So it's like you have a system when you don't need a central library because you are lending each other books and so on. So yeah, I think his vision aligns a lot with what we are talking about here. And that's why I'm excited to have him here. So Victor, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a bit more.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Guillem. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. It's yeah, I've come in. I went to a hackathon where we started building that distributed library about 2018, early 2018, January, in Copenhagen, building on the JavaScript version back in the day. And I really early on got so enchanted by the biological, the functioning, the biological patterns of Holochain, because that's where I've been for the last 10 years now, is permaculture, food systems, fungi in particular, I've been studying for a long time. And so I've seen this possibility as kind of creating human mycelium, creating this kind of web of relations and distribution and signaling, and how that will work if it's not one point, but many, many points that I want to connect. So yeah, and some basic context. I also have I've been setting up a bunch of different projects during the last decade. So I've been helped zoning for an eco village, where we have a lot of needs for different sorts of both planning tools, but also operationalizing that. And I'm running a co-op where we're growing mushrooms and microgreens. So we have a bunch of needs for a bunch of tools in that, in like the food scene. And I'm also been running some national projects in Sweden around food communities, food cooperatives, and how we can get best practices and patterns around people democratically having access to food. So yeah, those are a lot of what I've been delving into, and I'm so excited to be able to use the tech for enabling those things.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think to set the context today a little bit and to get you guys flying, I think we've got two parts of the equation a little bit here. So firstly is this idea of like well, there's two components to low code as I see it that are coming together with Belinda and Guillem. So one is the idea of to be able to conceive of a reality and be able to compress the space between the conceiver of that and it being built. In other words, that you don't need to be fully you might have to think in terms of solutions and design, etc., and that level of expansiveness as well as concentration and focus, but the code itself kind of manifests alongside the idea. So we've got Guillem here to make that happen. And then the other side of it is, well, that's all great, but it needs to be valuable. It needs to solve people, not just solve people's problems, but it needs to solve people, because we can all say, oh, well, this thing I want to build is really useful, but it needs to solve people's problems in a way that people recognize and adopt. So in the low code environment, what we're looking for, and I guess an assumption is that by connecting technology and solutions into the hands of the creator, and especially not the technical creator, but in terms of the person who's at that point of wanting to solve problems, that actually what we'll be making is way more real for people who then want to adopt. Now, that's not that obviously needs someone like Belinda to come in, because that process isn't just like coding isn't natural to all of us. That process isn't natural to all of us. So that's kind of why I think the two superpowers are combined on this call. And the idea is just to begin a bit of an exploration.
Even better than a helicopter plane.
Sounds very good.
So Viktor, can you tell us more about the kind of pain that you see, encounter, experience yourself, see other people experiencing?
Yeah, I think the most obvious one for me is the thing where food producers it's really hard for most people to see how much most food producers are struggling. As in, if you don't go to a very large level, like if you don't go industrial size, and even if you do, it's kind of, you're struggling. But if you don't, then you're really struggling to find somebody who will pay you enough for you to be able to do that without having to have other ways of having an income. So most of the people that I talk to that have started food businesses or running food businesses have either another job, or they are, somehow have inherited land, or have, they just don't need that much money, or they live really cheaply, or they have, it's really hard to have, like, if you're looking at pay for farming compared to other work, it's very, very low generally. And I had this experience now that we tried it, and we started becoming a producer, in part just to experience it, just to see what is it like. I also wanted to produce food, but that's becoming really obvious to me, that this visibility of value being created and visibility of how much time and effort goes in to producing food is not there. So people aren't really feeling the need to pay more than they do in the basic grocery store, because those are the prices that you're used to, and they come out of a really mechanized, global, extractive agricultural system, and people don't see that. So I think that's probably one of the biggest pains that I've encountered, is this inability for producers to create the webs that they need of support, so that they can do what they want to do, which is grow food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very clear one to me, at least.
Mm. Mm. And in some of the work that you're doing with cooperative structures, what's some of the pain around establishing and managing those kinds of organizational structures and containers?
Yeah, I mean, running organizations is really hard. People are not used to cooperating, especially in the kind of setting that isn't a traditional company where somebody gets the funding, calls the shots, and sets up a larger scale operation, and you may hire some people, but I mean, if you're going to do it democratically and try to run it so that people have a very strong sense of ownership of that and an input, and you get the values that you're looking for, it's really hard to cooperate. Like, people need to, usually there's a long learning curve of understanding how to listen to people and how to make things visible, and how to, make decisions, set up guiding structures. And a lot of the time, it's just you consume, because of most of the time food co-ops and stuff like that are, at least in part, but usually a large part, are run without people getting paid. So it's people doing that on a volunteer basis. And then you get drowned in the admin and the kind of like the things that you have to do in order to get it running. And there's like 4 people that take that on, and they become really burnt out. And then they are really angry with people that aren't helping, and the people that aren't helping aren't doing it because it sounds like such a pain because everybody else is whining about it. And it's a really bad circle of like, running that sort of organization. So I think that like not having the support patterns and tools to do that really easily and effectively, governance and organization seems like a big barrier to really making that accessible to most people.
So it sounds like an interesting first step could be to, sounds like there's at least one potential easier win, maybe like as a first step, which is to focus on the role of the volunteer, and to improve the ability to track and acknowledge and recognize and reward in whatever way the work that volunteers do.
Yeah. I think that recognition, I think, is crucial, because what I have seen is that most people that do go towards food cooperatives or stuff like that is because they feel they have a sense that it is valuable to them to engage. Like, the participation is very valuable, and that is like a belonging. It is a feeling of usefulness and of purposefulness. So I think that recognition, that to say like, yes, thank you for your contribution, and this was something helpful, and that I think is really, really useful in motivating, and also in making sure that people are seen, so that you have less of this kind of conflict situation. Yeah.
What else? What are your thoughts about alternative currencies in the whole kind of cooperative food domain?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, and I've seen a few struggles around it too, in it clashing with conventional systems and taxes and stuff like that. But some of the things that I find that I'm really excited about, like the low-hanging fruit kind of, is this, one of the things that's super interesting to me is this, because food co-ops normally already have a legal person, and they usually operate on some sort of credit internally. Like, people pay money into a bank account, and then they have that credit to buy food in the cooperative. Yeah. So what you already have is a structure that enables this kind of credit system. And those could be joined together. So as long as you just have a valid kind of ticket that says that somebody's put money into a bank account, you can translate that into an accreditation within the digital system. And then cooperatives can coordinate and have those, all the transactions that happen within producers and the people in cooperatives can be automated. So that's actually a pain. I mean, having to use a different sort of transaction between producers, and having to take money out in order to facilitate that, not being able to automate that within the system. So having payments not be a friction I think is really interesting. And that doesn't require anything more than just building on what's already there, just creating a credit system that's already in use. So that I found really interesting. And otherwise, I also think in the kind of currencies wider perspective of making sure that the values that people are there for are actually in the product. So the making sure that the products are produced in a good way, making visible that people are taking care of their animals and taking care of the soil and making sure that there's water retention happening and that kind of stuff. And I think that would be super useful also to bring into this kind of display of the producer and like being able to show, because that's what most small producers are really loving to do. They want to do it in a good way. That's why they remain small and don't go into this kind of, get bought up or something. So being able to show like, this is why I'm doing things the way I'm doing it from these values. So that's a bit more of that's beyond the transactional currency stuff, but it's certainly like something that they want to make visible.
Yeah, because that's more about narrative, isn't it? That's about storytelling, actually.
Yeah. But I like the idea of having currencies where or like this credit system, because that could also really enable a flow for producers that are once they have something that they have a track record of people wanting. So basically, it's kind of similar to holo hosting, kind of the idea of the I always sell all my potatoes that I produce because people like my potatoes. So as soon as I have them ready, I can just put them in and be accredited for the value that I have and not have to wait for that, period of time until I can get the funds out, or even I can put them in pre-sale and have the funds or have the credit to be able to use to say like, I backed my credits with all these food products that I have to enable a lot more liquidity in that kind of sense. Mm-hmm. So that's also something that I would be interested in trying, of like, well, people want your food, so you're good to have this amount of credit, and start also negotiating with other, like all of the value add producers. Feels like there's a big possibility of weaving, like the people that make the kimchi or the sauerkraut, they need the cabbage and they need the chili and they need and all that kind of stuff could be woven in really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to notice similar notes to past discussions, in the sense that what Stephen and you, Belinda, were talking about in previous sessions is really resonating with what Viktor is saying, at least in 2 points, which is one, aggregating peers' actions. So in this case is pulling producers or buyers also together to coordinate around a central action to have the action be much more effective. And two, standing up with for some values, or saying, no, this is what we care about, this is what is sacred to us in some way, and this is what we want to stand up for in our communities, because this is, we want to care about the world in this way. Just wanted to note that there are some similar notes, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Viktor, just tell me a little bit about, where are you at in terms of investigating technology solutions to these problems? Where are you up to?
Yeah, I've had a bit of a run with that. We actually built a platform. I helped design and spent a few years with a group building this platform called Local Food Nodes, which was which is a kind of tool for local pre-sale markets. So basically, people are just pre-ordering, meeting up for like 30 minutes, and then just distributing and stuff like that. And that is really useful, but the problem is that people tend to have trouble getting off of things like Facebook. So we're now, like, I'm currently selling all of our produce that we produce on Facebook, in a Facebook group or in a bunch of Facebook groups, which is because people are there and it's simple. And so I've been investigating this for a long time, and it's to me, what I think is necessary is this kind of building from the social group. So basically, if I want to sell things in my village, I first have to create the social context of the village together, a social space together that I can then put purchasing of food into. I can't do the purchasing of food independently, because that would require people to go there, and they might not be prepared to do that because that's not a part of their regular behavioral patterns. But if we can first create the sort of social cohesion group where you have the notice board and the chat and the thing of like, this is the local app, then putting that function in there is what I've come to as like the probably easiest and most pleasurable way actually of engaging, is that you have the social context first. And I know these people, and I know the people that I'm buying from because they were part of here, and I see them. And now I can also just make that really simply a transaction and to support them. So that's, I mean, and that's something that I've come to realize with Holochain is kind of the point of creating these membranes, of having social organisms, social groups come together, and within those groups you can create the functionality that you need, and hopefully do that low code, not having to build that all yourself. It's just like we really need to coordinate some sort of like a crowdfunding thing for art in our village, because we have a bunch of artists that want to do things. So that's the thing that you put in there, and or whatever it is. Like that's where I'm at, where it's like, okay, we need to build social spaces, and then from there we can go.
Guillem, sounds like something that is like a Facebook group would be really handy for a lot of different people. And that's not high functionality, right? Not the groups part.
No, no. It's nothing too complicated on the technical side. Like Holochain's primitive already give you a lot of this social context stuff, in the sense that every DNA has a membrane which determines who can get in and so on. So we just need, okay, here is the trickiest part. So actually building some sort of posts module or something that people can just post and then like or whatever, that's not really hard. What's maybe tricky is designing good membrane rules so that people, I don't know, from the social, like from the UX standpoint, or, okay, I get how this works. I know how to get in if I want, or how to get invited, or how to contact people. That's mostly the barrier I see. So, okay, examples that we could think of is, okay, there is some membership by invitation. So you have to be invited by some member of the membrane in order to be there. You could have social triangulation. You could have some sort of password thing, although that may be not the most secure. So having a good set of those, and it being easy to choose, as in, okay, I want to create this group with this membrane, and be able to have people enter easily. That's maybe the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, it's so it's
flower bath. This is my flower.
There's two. So there's this consistent theme of
We're from the same country.
really.
It's just that we have
the ability to explore with merging some of these tools. I mean, I know in the centralized world, like Clubhouse is an example right now of like 2 or 3 different apps come together in a particular way with branding and functionality, and people get really excited. And yet at the same time, all of that tooling, you know, and so there's something consistent, isn't there, about the mashup of web tooling.
I'll give you these.
And really, we just need to be able to experiment with it, isn't it? Like, we just need Holochain to keep being ready, and these conversations sort of support the readiness and the focus. And then the thing I hear a lot, I still don't fully understand the word, but is governance. It's like this combination of how, like, I don't know, it's not how we coordinate, but like how we organize and what we do as a group, and then what technology helps us kind of like strengths, etc. So it's one that I just hear the rumblings and the threads for it today, and I still don't know what to do with it, but it's building. So I'm just conscious of, apart from going in that, especially that second curveball, like, we're at time. Where do we want to take this conversation next in the coming weeks?
So we want to circle back in 2 weeks' time with Sabine and Manu from Crystal Waters.
Yep.
Because I spoke to them yesterday briefly, and they've been talking to Stephen, and they have identified what they think is one of the core problems that could be a first priority for them, which fits with one of the things that we've just spoken to Viktor about, but I'm not going to drop a spoiler. So ideally, what I would really like is to identify a pattern, like a pain and a solution pattern that is common to residential, community cooperative style organisation and food production cooperative style organisations. If we could identify something that is common there, then we can actually really have some fun, produce something that's broadly useful.
Yeah.
Super. All right. Well, yeah. Any final thoughts before, Viktor, we see you in a month?
I think that the thing that you just threw in at the end there, David, around governance is really something. It's something that I've experienced in these these buying groups online on Facebook. Is the one of the things that attracts people to them also is that there is somebody helping with regulation. So basically helping who's coming, how are they coming, what are they saying, are they making sure that they remove their ads afterwards, are they making sure that information is up to date, are they like there's something important about somebody trying to hold the space in a way, and that I think is the harder problem, but I think it's super important to, I think they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, it feels like it's used as all the things that would just make it better and easier for us to communicate and collaborate. It's like it's used as the catch-all for stuff that, like, oh yeah, we'll just do this and it'll work. Everything's great except for this bit, so let's throw this, and then we'll just make a governance system or make a DAO or do this. So my sense from your describing is this, what I'm looking for, I guess, is simple, safe, easy ways to explore that. But not the catch-all, it's more explore, okay, well, what tooling is helpful?
Yeah, well, and I mean, the way that it works with Facebook groups, right, is that somebody sets up a Facebook group and then formally or informally, they're a moderator. So they are maintaining a membrane and managing access and conduct and stuff. So there could be really simple tools and that could be quite effective in 80% of the scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, super.
Cool.
Thanks, Viktor. Nice to
Thank you.
actually talk to you.
Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great
Guillem.
to have you
Thanks,
here.
David.
Thanks everyone.
Guys.
Take care.
See you soon.
See ya.